All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. We're here at PreciseAlgorithmTrading.com on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, and it was a pullback day in the overall stock market today. So let's look at our automated trading systems, and we actually got a rise out of the Dow futures today. This is our equity curve, so it's not the actual charts; it's just the results of our trading, and we had some winning trades today, so that's good. The Russell is continuing to pull back here, and today, now we didn't actually have any trades today. The Nasdaq is pulling back, and it was a harder day for the Nasdaq, so this negated our wins. Um, and you'll have days like that. So we put the systems together, and it's just kind of okay. Um, it would have been nice to just eke out a overall win today, but you know these are nice trades, and that's the reason we do this is we have uh, a diversity inside of our systems. So uh, on the all-in, it's a winning proposition because your both equity curves ultimately go up, or all three, I should say. Um, so that's our automated trading. Our Let's go to the manual trading and look at the markets. So the S&P 500 went down 1% today. The Dow Jones went down 1% today. The Russell went down 1% today. The um, the transports went down 1% today, and the Nasdaq went down 1.65% today. So um, it was obviously a big down day in the markets. We'll take a look at the internals of the bullish percent indexes and see really what's happening under the hood. But the don't lose sight of the fact that the trend is still intact on the daily chart here on the S&P 500. The the It's given way on the hourly over here. The trend is the green line that turns to red. It's a 30 period moving average. Um, and now it's red, and so is price, and so we're pulling back up into here. I could see, a pull back up into the mid range, back to the mean in the hourly chart before this thing rolls back over again. Or we could come all the way back up to the other side of the. We got two average true ranges here, two ATR, down and up, and it could come all the way back up to the other side and roll over without even putting in a new high. So we'll have to see what happens. We've got the stochastics rolling over here, but it rolled over the other day, just not as big. The MACD is still positive and over zero, but it's been a lot of back and forth lately. So that's the S&P 500. The Russell pulled back to this really triangle breakout line that's right there. Look, it's sitting right on it over here on the hourly chart. Pulled back under it and came back and sitting right on top of it now. So this thing is still poised. I mean, pretty. It's got a long term, or I should say that the trend is up. The green line is up on the daily chart. It is down on the hourly, but this is a real similar, except that we did break trend to the upside here. We have higher highs and higher lows, and this thing could pull really all the way back down here without putting in a new low. I don't think it'll do that, but we'll watch for that. And I'm going to look at IWM real quick just because it's the exchange traded fund, and you can see here I'm actually positive from where my entry point was, and this is where you start pulling your stop up. So, or you can leave it on the daily until you get a crossover here, and you can still go 2 bars or 2 pivots back. But in order to hang on to your profit, I've moved it to this pivot back here. So technically speaking, I could move it to really any of these 2 pivots right here, but I'm trying to give it room to move, room to breathe and not get stopped out. All right. The Dow here, I'm going to flip back to the futures. It has broken down. The 30 period moving average is red now, so the trend is broken. Doesn't mean that it's going to go sink like a rock, but and you can see we're well past the 2 ATR to the downside on the hourly chart. So to a bounce from here makes a ton of sense, because a bunch of people that got short here are going to get taken back behind the woodshed, um, because markets just don't make it that easy on people. Um, that's a typical move in waves. We'd come down, we'll pull back up before we can put in a new, uh, really advanced lower. I mean, not that we can't just roll over from here and take out this pivot and then do that, but at some point this thing's going to come roaring back to really to throw everybody off that went short. And then basically test everybody's, test the weak hands and see who gets thrown off, and then go in the direction. At this point, I'd say the easy move is going to be lower for a bit, probably at least to this 2 ATR on the daily chart, which right now is sitting at 38,183 on the futures. All right, the Nasdaq is bouncing overnight. We're sitting at the line. The line is still green, so the trend is still up. But we'll watch that the Dow, because it's the canary in the coal mine. Now I know I've been preaching, or prognosticating is really what it is, that we're probably going to 40,000, and I don't think that's maybe not in this particular move, but I don't think it's going to be very long before we get there, unless something just totally goes awry in the overall uh, markets and economy. In fact, here's the Dow that everybody looks at. It's the index itself. It's not tradable, and yeah, so getting a bounce here would potentially make some sense, or even getting all the way down to here. So, all right. The transports is really coiling at this point in sideways action. And then I'd say actually maybe the transports are going to be something to watch for the canary in a coal mine kind of a move. Because if we get a bounce out of here before the industrials, then that would be a pretty good precursor. And you can see here that the weekly I just flipped to is still bullish. So looks pretty good actually. Okay, that's the transports. Oil today went down. The USO went down 0.76%. Still all fine. Totally reasonable back and forth wave patterns. The oil futures, same thing. They're really not knocking anybody's socks off here, but we're still in, generally trending higher, it looks like. Sorry, I'm taking a look at all my kind of like live positions here just to see what, if anything, there is to do. And I think I'm set for what risk I'm willing to take. All right, that's that. Gold, I'm sure, is just still taunting me. There you go. Um, breaking out, or it's broke out to the upside. It's still gapping higher here. No sign of a slowdown really over here on the hourly chart, and I am not in it. So that's, oh well. BITO today, BITO, I heard Bitcoin went down. So yeah, this thing got cut by 10% today. But that's all right. I took half my position off the table yesterday, and my stop is set based on the hourly chart. So see what happens, and we're here at the 2 ATR to the downside, and if as long as this thing doesn't get too crazy, we might just get a nice bounce here and just walk sideways for a bit. So, and I'm gonna leave that there. TLT actually is one I got into recently because it was showing a nice signal, and we got a nice gap higher today. So, yeah, that is about as nice of a setup as you can get. I think the weekly, even though I think the weekly is up, so all the signs are pointing to this should be a decent trade. All right, so that's the overall stock market. Let's flip to stockcharts.com. I flip this thing to a point and figure right here because I think it's going to work this way when I type in bullish and give me this list that we're used to looking at. So let's look at the industrials. Down 4% in a column of X's in a point and figure buy signal. If this thing continues to like just roll over and die, we're going to get a reversal on this pretty quick. But this point and figure buy signal is something that I'm taking notice of. The NYA here is only down 0.63. The transports rolled over today. I did see that. The NASDAQ down 1.85%. The S&P 500 minus 1.96%. The S&P 100 minus 5.8%. And the NASDAQ 100 rolled over to a column of O's. And that was kind of the big tech news today, was all the big tech stocks rolled over and we're really having the worst day, and that's indicative of the NASDAQ being down, that 1 point whatever it was, 1.65% or whatever. Let's flip here just because I forgot while we're looking at it, and this is the VIX, and we've been watching this VIX when it popped the whatever that's been a couple weeks ago to the upside, and I said, well, at some point I'm expecting it to spike again because these things usually come in waves like this or like this. Well, we're starting to perk up here, so this is I'm going to call it a first shot over the bow. This rising channel here, and actually you could draw a rising wedge if you connect the lows of these recent bars versus these first two. Eventually this thing's going to break to the downside. I don't think it's done it yet, but this is the kind of action it would take to do that. So it's a good thing I am not long the S&P 500, and that's not how we trade. We trade these things based on their individual signals, and in fact, I guess I should show you one other one. SPY. Actually, I'm short S&P 500 from the price from yesterday. I went short at the end of the day. Collected profit when we got here below the 2 ATR to the downside, kept one position on, and now this is bouncing up probably back into the middle, which I can take as long as it doesn't take out my stop. My stop's up here just beyond this, the high right there at 514.20, and so far really so good, even though this is, I'm going against the main overall trend, and I know that, and that's the risk I was willing to take because I saw this action that was happening at the end of the day yesterday. So it's sort of a hedge, but it's a trade in and of itself too. So if this thing's going to give up here and roll over, then I'm going to be long in this, or I should say long in a put position, because a put position actually is a bet on the market going lower, and that will gain if the market goes lower, even if I stop out of some other of my longer term or bullish positions. So that's the balance I'm looking for, especially in a market like this, to have some things that are going to go up in a market when it goes down. Therefore, I'm in things like TLT, oil, and I'm short spiders right now. So just some ideas of how you can trade the markets and try to diversify your positions. And again, you're always trading your own account. None of this is advice; it's just educational. But risk your own money and do your own way. But I've been trading a long time, and these are some ways that work. You just have to understand your risk and set your risk accordingly. Really, your stops and your targets and things like that. And I hope it helps. So until next time, have a great evening, and we will talk to you then.